Hey, kia ora, Helen Brahms coming to you live from Escondido in California. So tonight I actually got private messaged a question. So I thought I would answer it tonight. And thank you, Debbie, for the question because it is a very good question. And so I thought, well, if you guys have a question about travel, then please private message me the question and we might end up answering it in a Facebook Live for you. So the question that Debbie had for me was cabin categories. What are the differences on the cruise ship? Because sometimes when we send out quotes, it might have balconies and it's got 3 different prices there. What is the difference? Or what's the difference between an inside an ocean view and a balcony, a veranda, a promenade room, or an inside cabin, that sort of, I said inside cabin, suites, that sort of thing. So here's the breakdown. Inside cabins, no windows. Period. It's like sleeping in a closet. There are only about 150 to maybe 190 square feet, and that includes your bathroom, your closet, everything, and there is no windows in there. Great for teenagers. So if you're a family traveling with teenagers, the parents have the balcony, the kids have the inside cabin because kids want to sleep in the morning, don't want to be disturbed by the daylight. Perfect room for them. If you like a dark room to sleep in, inside cabin, perfect. If you want a room with a view, then you've got the ocean view, which is usually lower down on the ship and has a window that you can see out but does not open. And then you have the ocean view balconies, or just balconies or verandas. There's 3 different terms for the same room. And that is where you have a door that will go out into your own. And some ships, semi-private, well, I'll call it a semi-private room because you can hear what the people next door are talking about. You may not be able to see what they're doing, but you can hear them. So like in a hospital room, when you have a semi-private room, the curtain just separates you. These ones have a slightly more solid wall. But you've got an outdoor area where you can look at the view. I personally love the balconies or the verandas, whichever terminology the cruise line uses. I personally love those because I'm an early riser, so I like to go and sit out there and basically watch the sun come up. And when you're coming into port, it's great to just stand out there, and I could just be in my PJs and just watch us coming into port and getting that first glimpse as you're coming in. And last year when I was doing Alaska, it was some amazing views coming into ports, and I was up at like 5 o'clock in the morning. I had my PJs on, which was a pair of shorts, a long shirt. I threw my shoes on, no socks, put my jacket on, put a hat on, no gloves. It was like 28 degrees outside, Fahrenheit, not centigrade. So Fahrenheit, so it was below freezing outside, and I'm out there on my balcony watching us as we go up the fjord to see the glaciers at the end. And we knew we were going to be entering the fjords around 6 o'clock in the morning. So I didn't even take the time to get dressed. And when we're on those cruises going up the fjords, they don't do announcements over the public speakers, so you've got to listen to your TVs. So I had the TV turned on in the room so I could hear it because I don't want the noise pollution. And had phenomenal views. My hand was frozen around my phone by the end of it, but it was well worth it. Got some great videos, got some great photographs. It was awesome. Got to see the glacier carving, which was just amazing. But so I love the balconies because you can sit there in the morning and just enjoy the view, enjoy the world waking up, enjoy your coming into port. At the end of the day, when you go back and it's time to go to bed, I like sitting out there, especially if there's like moonlight out there, because you get the reflection of the moon off the water, and it's just absolutely spectacular. So that's me. I personally like the balconies. Then you have the suites, which are bigger than the regular cabins will range anywhere, depending on the cruise ship, from 150 square feet, and we're talking ocean cruise here, not river cruise. They're completely different. The ocean cruises, where the inside cabins through to the balconies will range anywhere from 150 square feet up to 230 square feet, unless you're on the luxury ones, which could, because they may be an all-suite ship. So for the regular cabins on regular ships, that's about your size. Your suites start about 50% bigger than your balconies and go up from there. And some of them may be 2 bedrooms, some of them will sleep up to 14 people. Great for families with 5 or more people where you want everybody in one room. You can get those sort of suites as well. And they usually come with extra amenities and like reserved seating in the theatres. Some cruise lines will have priority embarkation and disembarkation for those that are in the suites. You may get your own concierge, which will help you book your spa treatments or your shore excursions, all that sort of stuff. When you get the pricing and if somebody sends you a quote for a cruise and they've got a balcony cabin with 3 different prices, what's the difference? It's simply like all real estate: location, location, location. If it's a lower category within the balcony, if it's a low price, it probably means that it's lower down on the ship, and it could be front or back of the ship. If it's a higher pricing, it's usually higher up on the ship. And the more midship you go, it can get a little more expensive going into midship, because that is the ideal place to be on a cruise ship. So those are your differences. So you've got your inside cabin, no windows, ocean view with a window that doesn't open. You have your balcony / veranda / ocean view with balcony. These are the different descriptions that cruise lines have. They're not uniformed. And then you have your suites. You also have, if you're on a Royal Caribbean Freedom class or Oasis class ship, or any of the ones that have the Royal Promenade, you have what's called the Promenade Room, which is technically an inside cabin, but it has a window that overlooks the inside of the ship over the top of the Royal Promenade, and they're called Promenade Rooms, and they're really cool. Brad and I stayed in one back on Mariner of the Seas in August of 2010. We had 21 family members on there celebrating some milestone birthdays, and we had a promenade room, and it did get loud in there when they did some of the late night parties, but the parties only go for like 30 minutes. So, and they're only for 2 people. They'd only sleep 2 people in those rooms. So, if you like, and it was just great to sit up there at times and people watch, especially on formal nights, where you could just sit there in the bay window overlooking the promenade and watching everybody in their finery walking around, dressed up and all that sort of stuff. So that was kind of cool. So you can get those. Some other cruise lines will have some slightly different ships. They all have different ships, different cabins that could be where it's kind of like a balcony, but there is no separation. It's just part of the, you walk out of your cabin straight out onto the deck area where there's a promenade that goes up and down. I know Holland America has some cabins like that. Then on Carnival you have the Havana. No, not the Havana. What are they called? On their new ships, they've got these special cabins where you actually get like a balcony area, like a little balcony courtyard that then opens with a gate onto the main portion of the promenade deck, but that area is closed off until late in the evening, when they then open it up so everybody has access to the bar. So you kind of have like a private area, and then you have like the ships within a ship. So you have like Norwegian has their Havana rooms, and the Havana area is a separate area of the ship where they have their own swimming pool, their own jacuzzi, their own restaurants. They have butler service there, and it's usually all suites that are up there. And it's like a ship within a ship. The only reason you need to leave that area basically is if you want to try any of the specialty restaurants on board the ship, to go see a show, or to get off to go shopping or excursions. Otherwise, the butler will bring you whatever food you want, whatever drinks you want, and all that sort of stuff. So that's the difference on the different cabins and everything. So if you have any travel related questions, please feel free to send me a private message, and your question could end up on a Facebook Live to educate everyone. So I hope you're having a super fantastic sparkling day. I know I am. And hello to everybody that is saying hello to me right now. I'm going to scroll back up here. Got Chuck, good evening. Kia ora. Tammy, hi. Jed, Joanne, Caroline. Haven't spoken to you for ages, Caroline. Francis. Who else is on here? Stacy. Wow, lots of people tonight. Kia ora, everyone. Thank you all for tuning in. I appreciate it. So if you have a travel-related question, we're more than willing that you would like everybody to know about. You'll only use your first name. So Debbie, thank you for your question on the cabins and what's the different categories and what's the difference between them. Hang on. So that's Ocean View. When you're on river cruises, they have different roofs. They have they don't have inside cabins, but they have the ones that are kind of below the waterline, which have just a little window across the top there. So you're kind of semi-submerged in those rooms. Then you have the ones that have French balconies, and the French balconies is literally a sliding door that opens and goes nowhere. So you can slide open your sliding door, and you've got floor to ceiling sliding door, you just open that up, and there's a railing right there in front of you, and that's called a French balcony on a river cruise. River cruise cabins are slightly smaller than a regular ship, but they are size restricted. So on a river boat, they're restricted on their length, their width, and their height. The height, because they have low bridges to go under on some of the European rivers, and their length and width is dictated by the length and width of the locks that they go through. And that is the coolest experience. I'll tell you, we did a Christmas market cruise, and we were on Armour Waterways, and we were going down the Danube River, and we actually a group of us got to go up, and they sent us up in groups of like 4 or 5 to go up into the wheelhouse with the captain. And so we're all sitting there at the back. It was so quiet, and you're just floating down this river. There's this gorgeous scenery going past, beautiful forests and castles and vineyards, and he's kind of wending his way down the river, and we're like, how do you know when to turn all that? And he's pointing out to the green lights and the red lights, telling him which side of the river he needs to be on. And so he aims the boat towards that, and we're sitting there in this wheelhouse. We've got a 360-degree view. All of a sudden, he reaches across, he presses this button, and we're hearing doo, doo, doo. And as that's happening, we start going lower into the ship. So he's actually lowering the wheelhouse into the ship, and we're left with we're still left with a 360-degree view, but instead of having these massive windows, where we now have like half the size of the windows, and we go under these bridges, and there is not a lot of clearance under those bridges. It was actually quite interesting. And then after we've gone under a couple, we hear doo, doo, doo again, and we start going back up again to get the full view. And then just ahead of us, after we did that, we saw a lock coming up, and he allowed us to stay there as the ship was taken into the lock. The gates were closed behind us. The water was drained out. We lowered down in the lock. Then the massive gates were opened, and out we went. And to witness that from up in the wheelhouse on a river cruise was just amazing. Remember, 360-degree view, and out to the side of the wheelhouse, there was actually one of the crew members was there with a little joystick, and he was steering us into the lock and getting us positioned and everything. The captain was just hands off, and he just stood there and observed what the guy was doing and kept an eye on all of his instruments, kept looking around the window. And one of his crew members was actually steering us into the locks and putting us into position for the gates to then close and then the water to drop out. And we found out that over to the side of where the lock is, there's these massive holding tanks, pool, whatever you want to call it. So when they have to take the water out of the lock, it gets pumped out into these massive holding ponds area, and then you get to go. And then when they need to raise the river, they just pull the water back in from these big holding ponds or tanks and fill up the lock. So they're just basically sending this water backwards and forwards between each other. So that was kind of interesting to watch all of that. So yes, you will get slightly different. Then you've got your luxury cruise ships, which have some of them don't have inside cabins. Some of them don't even have ocean view cabins. Some of them are all balconies or all suites. And so they're kind of in categories by themselves. And then you've got the specialties like the yachts and expedition ships and all of that, which have all the different types of rooms that they have on there as well, different sizes. So it really depends what kind of ship you're going on. And if you're talking with your travel professional, and just ask them, what's the difference between this one and this one? And it could simply be, if it's the same room type, it's simply based on where on the ship it is located, and that's all. Okay, so that's it from me for today. Have a super fantastic sparkling evening, and thank you for watching. And remember, message me your travel questions, and we'll put them on the Facebook Live. And thank you, Debbie, for your questions on different cabin categories on cruise ships.